Good afternoon, my friends. Everybody keeps talking about how the New England Patriots improved their defensive front after the draft, but the real conversation inside the fan base right now is whether this team still needs one more veteran edge rusher before training camp officially begins. Because when you really break down the current roster, there's no doubt the Patriots got younger, more athletic, and probably more explosive long term, but there's also a very clear lack of proven experience behind some of the main names in that room. The Patriots already made important additions this offseason. They brought in Draymond Jones, they added Harold Landry, and then during the draft, they continued investing in the edge position with Gabe Ace and Quintavious Hutchkins. On paper, that sounds solid. It sounds like a front office trying to completely rebuild the identity of the pass rush after last season's struggles. But once you go deeper into the depth chart, you start seeing why this debate has suddenly become so important around New England. The current edge room is filled with question marks behind the top rotation. Gabe Ace is a rookie stepping into the NFL for the very first time. Elijah Ponder is still extremely inexperienced, entering only his second season after making the roster as an undrafted free agent. Braden Swinson is another young player trying to survive roster cuts. So while the Patriots absolutely have young talent to develop, there's still this feeling that the team could use one more veteran presence. Someone who understands NFL defenses, someone who can mentor younger players, and someone who can still contribute situationally without needing to play every snap. And that's where the Matthew Judon conversation suddenly returned. The moment rumors started linking Judon back to New England, Patriots fans immediately became divided. Some fans instantly remembered the energy he brought to the defense when he wore the red sleeves and became one of the emotional leaders of the locker room. Others looked at his recent production and immediately shut the idea down. And honestly, both sides have a point. Judon recently spoke publicly about still wanting to continue his NFL career. He made it clear he believes he still has something left in the tank despite remaining a free agent this late into the offseason. The confidence is still there. The mentality is still there. But the production from last season tells a completely different story. During his time split between the Miami Dolphins and Buffalo Bills, Judon appeared in 14 games, but recorded only 19 tackles and 0 sacks. That number alone shocked a lot of people around the league, considering how dominant he once looked in New England. Even more concerning was the advanced grading. His PFF grade dropped to 43, to one of the worst marks among edge rushers in football, and he finished the season with only 11 total pressures. That's a massive decline from the player Patriots fans remember from 2021 and especially 2022. Back then, Judon looked like one of the best defensive playmakers in the entire NFL. His 2022 season was elite. 60 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 15.5 sacks, and Pro Bowl recognition. He was everywhere. He completely changed games by himself at times. But football changes fast, especially for pass rushers in their 30s. And now the question becomes whether New England would be bringing back the player he used to be, or simply the memory of that player. One moment from last season really stood out to people evaluating his decline. There was a play against the Dolphins where Maye escaped on a bootleg and outran Judon for a touchdown. A few years ago, that simply does not happen. The explosiveness that once made Judon such a dangerous edge threat just doesn't consistently appear anymore. Still, there are reasons why a reunion could make sense. Judon was one of the leaders inside the Patriots locker room. Younger defenders respected him. Coaches trusted him. He understood the system, understood the culture, and understood the expectations inside New England. If the Patriots brought him back, it likely wouldn't be to become a full-time starter. It would probably be on a cheap one-year veteran contract where he plays limited snaps, mainly in passing situations, while helping mentor the younger edge players throughout the season. The bigger question is whether the Patriots should prioritize leadership or production, because when you compare Judon to another available veteran like Joey Bosa, the difference in recent impact becomes impossible to ignore. Bosa may not be the dominant superstar he once was either, but unlike Judon, he still showed flashes of real pass rush productivity last season. Even while dealing with injuries and inconsistency, Bosa finished with 29 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks during his season with the Buffalo Bills. More importantly, his pressure numbers remained strong. He recorded 47 pressures and 12 quarterback hits, numbers that completely separate him from most remaining free agent edge rushers. And honestly, for a Patriots Patriots defense that finished near the bottom of the league in sacks last year. Adding someone capable of delivering even 5 sacks in a rotational role could end up being extremely valuable. The Patriots don't necessarily need prime Joey Bosa. They don't need him playing every snap like he did earlier in his career. What they need is situational disruption. They need someone who can step onto the field on third down and still make quarterbacks uncomfortable. And based on last season alone, Bosa still appears capable of doing that when healthy. The health part, though, is the biggest gamble. Bosa has struggled staying healthy consistently over the last several seasons, and that's exactly why his market remains surprisingly quiet right now. Teams know the talent is still there, but they also know availability matters just as much as talent in the NFL. For New England, though, this could create an opportunity. If the Patriots can sign him to a low-risk contract, they may end up getting far more value than expected out of a player many people still believe has something left. And this is where things start getting really interesting for the Patriots heading toward camp, because now the front office has a decision to make. Do they trust the young players already in the building and allow them to develop naturally throughout the season? Or do they bring in one more experienced veteran to stabilize the rotation and give the defense another proven presence off the edge? That decision could quietly shape the entire identity of the Patriots defense this year. So now the real question becomes this: if the Patriots only sign one veteran edge rusher before the season starts, would you rather see them bring back Matthew Judon for leadership and familiarity, or take a chance on Joey Bosa still having one more productive season left in him? The biggest reason this conversation refuses to disappear around the Patriots is because fans know exactly how important the pass rush is going to be for this team in 2026. The Patriots can improve offensively, they can continue developing Drake Maye, and they can build a stronger overall roster, but if they still struggle getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks, this defense is going to run into the exact same problems we watched last season. And honestly, that's why the Joey Bosa idea feels so much more realistic right now than the Matthew Judon reunion. When you look at what New England is trying to build defensively, it's clear they want versatility, speed, and situational aggression. Harold Landry gives them experience. Draymond Jones gives them flexibility across the defensive line. The rookies give them upside. But what they still don't fully have is a proven rotational pass rusher who can reliably impact third downs immediately. That's why Bosa keeps standing out. Even in a season where people said he declined, even in a year where injuries continued following him, he still produced more disruption than most available edge rushers on the market. 5 sacks may not sound elite compared to his prime years, but for a rotational player on a defense that desperately needed pressure, that production matters. The Patriots finished near the bottom of the NFL in sacks last year, and too many times opposing quarterbacks had clean pockets against them. That cannot happen again if this team expects to compete seriously, and what makes Bosa especially interesting is that he would not arrive with the pressure of needing to be the guy. Earlier in his career with the Los Angeles Chargers, defenses depended on him to completely dominate games. That's no longer the expectation. In New England, he would simply be asked to contribute in specific situations, stay healthy enough to rotate consistently, and help elevate the younger talent around him. That role could actually benefit him at this stage of his career, because one thing people forget is that the Patriots are quietly building a very different type of defensive front than what fans have seen over the last few years. The emphasis now seems to be on depth and rotation instead of relying on one superstar edge rusher to carry everything. They want fresh bodies attacking quarterbacks all game long. That's exactly why adding another veteran still makes sense even after investing heavily during the offseason. And you can already imagine how the coaching staff would probably use Bosa if he signed tomorrow. Third and long situations, passing downs, 2-minute defensive possessions, obvious quarterback pressure moments. That's where he could still be dangerous, even if he's no longer the dominant every down force he once was. Offensive lines still respect him. Quarterbacks still recognize him before the snap. That alone changes protections and opens opportunities for other defenders. Meanwhile, the Matthew Judon conversation feels far more emotional than practical. There's a reason Patriots fans still love him. During some difficult seasons, Judon brought energy, confidence, and personality to the defense. He became one of the faces of the team almost immediately after arriving in New England. Every big sack celebration, every emotional reaction, every leadership moment on the sideline, fans connected with him because because he genuinely looked like someone who embraced playing for the Patriots. But the NFL is brutal when it comes to aging defenders. The reality is that production eventually matters more than memories. And when you finish a season without a single sack while grading among the lowest edge defenders in football, teams start questioning whether there's enough left physically to justify a roster spot. That's simply the harsh reality veteran players face. Could Judon still help a locker room? Absolutely. Could he still provide occasional situational pressure? Maybe. But the Patriots also have to think about roster development. Every snap given to an aging veteran is a snap not going toward a younger player the organization is trying to develop for the future. That matters when you're rebuilding depth across the defense. This is why the younger edge rushers suddenly become such an important storyline heading into training camp. Gabe Bosa is entering the league with expectations already building around him after the Patriots invested a draft pick to improve the position. Elijah Ponder showed flashes after making the roster as an undrafted free agent. Quintavious Hutchins is another developmental piece the organization clearly believes has upside. The coaching staff now has to figure out whether those players are ready to contribute immediately or whether they still need time before handling meaningful NFL snaps. And if the answer is that they need more time, then bringing in another veteran almost becomes necessary. That's why this situation feels bigger than just one signing. The Patriots are trying to balance the future with the present at the exact same time. They want young talent developing, but they also understand the pressure to improve immediately after recent struggles. Fans are tired of watching opposing quarterbacks stand comfortably in the pocket. Fans want a defense that attacks again. They want disruption back. They want that identity restored. And honestly, that's what makes training camp so important this year, because one strong preseason from a young edge rusher could completely change the front office's plans. If Gabe Bosa explodes early, maybe they decide not to sign anybody. If Elijah Ponder takes a huge leap, maybe they trust the internal development. But if the pass rush still looks inconsistent once camp begins, don't be surprised if the Patriots aggressively revisit the veteran market before week 1. The front office clearly understands what's at stake. This defense already has more talent than last season. The roster is deeper, the competition is stronger, but whether this unit becomes genuinely dangerous or simply improved may depend entirely on whether the Patriots can finally solve their edge rotation once and for all. And if they do make one final move before the season starts, there's a very real chance that move could completely reshape expectations for this defense heading into 2026. So now Patriots fans are left watching and waiting to